different perspectives. I'm trying to like open up the scope of our lenses to just adventure with God, you know, in this conversation. So any other thoughts on this? Yeah.
I like how the Bible says the battle does not belong to us but to the Lord, so it's cool to see the reflection of like God's goodness and glory coming through, and that perhaps it's not really even about Job, but he's like still a middle character to, you know, to see God not battle it out with Satan, but rather show his goodness and overcoming evil with himself.
Super good. Yay. That's good.
Like that he's walking around on the earth.
Yeah. So,
not sure I like that, but
let's talk about some of the characters here. We have God. God is referred to in Job in several different ways. He is referred to as Elohim, which is considered we. It was the we in the garden. We will make humanity in our image, which is considered Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. But then Yahweh is also used throughout Job. And there are conversations about Job being a conversation about God being three persons and God being contained as one. So I'm just going to put God as three and as one. That the Holy Spirit, Jesus, and the Father are present in this story. Also then just God, meaning just one, is having this conversation as well. And then sons of God, this is one of the really fun parts. So all throughout poetry in the Old Testament, things don't always represent themselves. Next week we'll have like a little exercise where we'll play, yeah, I love that one, right? Where we'll play a game with images in the Old Testament that represent other things. So it'll be everything from stars to clay and dust to ashes to trees to birds. And what do those represent? It kind of like, you know how things represent other things. And so all throughout the Old Testament, there is imagery that represents other things, and the discovery of what those images represent can actually be found in Proverbs and in Psalms and in Job. So we'll do a few of those. This is one of them. Sons of God. Who would expect, what did sons of God, if you just read this, or didn't read this, but you were talking about who are the sons of God, who would you think would be the sons of God? What?
I'd say Israel.
Right, Israel. Right. And so it's saying here, and now there was a day when the sons of God came to present them before the Lord, and Satan came among them. So this adversary came among them. So the question is, are the sons of God angels coming to present themselves and to be accounted for? Are sons of God humanity? It's kind of ambiguous. We'll find out more as we go along, but we'll put a question mark. Yeah.
So, sorry, I just was thinking about the conversation I had about this many years ago. I just remember that the category sons of God, we didn't necessarily say that it was angels, but we did say that it had something to do with characters that had similar responsibilities or similar, like, role as the Satan character. So other attorneys.
Angels. Other angels, other attorneys, yes.
But we didn't call them angels.
Right.
We called them, we basically said it was a room full of people of the court.
People of court.
Yeah, people of the court. Like they were other courtiers. Or,
Okay, we'll put in court members.
Yeah.
Whether human, whether divine, whether we don't know. But he's saying, here it is. Beings have presented themselves to the Lord, and amongst them is this adversary, interestingly, roaming around on the earth. And it's a really interesting key because many people will automatically assume that Satan in other places in Scripture is considered the accuser of the brethren. And many people go that he's the accuser of humanity. But we are not, even in those illustrative ways, we are not Satan's brethren. Humanity is not Satan's brethren. So when he is considered an accuser of the brethren, what he was an accuser of his fellow beings in those stories. So we have to move out of this like, oh, he's an accuser of us, and go, no, there is an accusation in the atmosphere. There is an accusation. Whether you're taking it as a specific character, meaning Satan, or whether you're taking it as an adversarial prosecutor, that it's existing in the earth, they are personifying an accusation that roams freely around the earth, not being held or contained, that is bringing charges. And the charges that are brought is what? Anybody? Yeah. Does Job not fear you for no reason? So let's go to fear of God, and then we'll wrap up for our practice. This is so fun. I'm sorry. It's like there's so much here, and we used to do it for big, longer times, so I'm having to learn how to like chunk it down, and we're going to have so much fun with it. But there's kind of a challenge that occurs here, which is that in response to Satan or this accusation roaming on the earth, God points out Job. Did you notice that? God points out Job. That's going to bug you in this story, because what he's saying is this accusation, this person, this thing is roaming about freely. My response to accusation or evil roaming freely is to point out goodness in the form of a person and bait evil into a conversation. And bait it into a conversation. To bait it.
Yeah, because God brings up Job first.
He brings up Job first. Have you considered my servant? Because there's no one like him on the earth. He's blameless and he's upright, and he fears me and he shuns evil. And if you look through what fearing God is, because I think that's a really important part here, almost all of Proverbs is all about fearing God, is to basically reject evil. So they give the definition. In fact, you can look up in Proverbs, it says, to fear God is to hate evil. They're going, let me give you the very definition. So I'm going to have you put that up there, because everybody's tried to bend themselves in and out of a pretzel on this whole idea of like what fearing God is. Is it really honoring him? Well, we'll be honest, the word fear here isn't really honor, it's fear. So I would really love to find any interpretation that would find that word to mean honor, and it can get there, it can get somewhat to honor, but within the very story of the time and within Proverbs, it's going, let me unlock this little mystery, and the mystery is that fearing God means to hate evil. To have a great relationship with God, to be upright with God. And that's the mystery. These are these couplets that unwrap each other. So what they're really saying is that to have this understanding of who God is to hate evil. And he goes, this is a guy who understands who I am and hates evil. And hang on, I want to wrap up this last part. And so he goes, have you noticed him? He understands me. He hates evil. And so Satan says to him, well, does he understand you for no reason? The only reason you have a great relationship with him is that you have made a hedge around him and his household. And remember we learned what a garden meant? In the Garden of Eden, it didn't mean a garden with lush plants. It meant a hedge. You have placed a hedge around a person. You've placed a hedge around them and on every side, and you bless him. And all of his possessions have increased. But now stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse you to the face. So he's saying, your relationship exists because of blessing. And it wouldn't if you stopped blessing. You would have no relationship. So he's going, basically, your relationship with this guy is based on you being good to him. Isn't that funny? Because we've all related our relationship to God with us being good for him. So this is switching the tables on that. And then the Lord says, all that he has, I'm putting into your power to do something with. So that, I hope, bugs all of us. I hope there are people who run right past that and go, oh, it's no big deal. God's saying, now, by the way, he didn't go, the challenge from Satan or the adversary or the prosecutor was, you crush him, you hurt him, and he won't like you anymore. And he says, I'm not going to do it, but I will allow it to happen. See what will happen as a part of this. And herein rests this ginormous question of, does God allow innocence to suffer? Herein rests, does a good God or does a good anybody allow suffering? So it takes out of the question, does God cause suffering? And it puts into the place, does God allow it? And we're going to end on that part. Because those are the questions that we get to grapple with, is what is happening in our world of evil? And is there a God who's allowing any kind of adversary to crush blameless, upright people? Because there was a theology that existed at this time that if you do the right thing and if you do the good thing, you will always be what? Blessed. How many of us grew up in that theology in modern times? You do the right thing, you make the right decisions, and you will be blessed. God won't give you anything more than you can't handle. You might suffer difficult things, but if you do the right thing, if you're operating right with God, you will be blessed. So this is confronting that conversation head on and going, does it really work that way? Is there really a quid pro quo with God? Good questions. Okay, any comments while Lindsay's coming up? What? You love that we're going here? Yay! I know, right? Me too. Do you want to take that? Go ahead. I want to hear this for just a moment because this is good.
I just love that we're going there because I think it's one of the biggest questions that daunts humanity and also keeps people separated from God. Mm-hmm. So if this question at least can be out for discussion, there can be an openness to view God in a different way that won't make you have to close your heart because he isn't what we thought he should be. Right. So anyway, I just thank you. Yeah.
If I hadn't experienced some intense suffering in a friend's life who was innocent, and I had to get figured out, what do you say about that, God? And it hadn't been a multi-year process, there is no way I could go here with any kind of confidence. I think it's only until we have processed some of this out in real life experience, that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, that we have the space to open up, to have the conversation, to start to have the conversation of where is God really at on suffering and innocent suffering and evil in the earth, and is he a capricious God? Or as C.S. Lewis says, the greatest fear of all of my life and the most evil of all would be to discover that a good God isn't actually good. So game on, right? This is going to be so good. And I'm telling you, there's a couple people who've already done this series with us, and it's why we're so excited about it, because I think that you're going to have your mind blown with some of the perspectives that we present. You may or may not agree with them, but I think it's going to be an exciting conversation. So we have a cast of characters that has begun somewhat in a courtroom, like you say, Anne, with God and Job and Satan, sons of God, which is a question, and then we're going to add to it some other cast of characters, which is going to kind of represent all of humanity and in our lives. So I think God's going to do some amazing things with this. So, woohoo! Okay, Lindsay, you are going to do prophetic practice with us, and your honey is away. So we're super excited about what you and the Lord have planned for us.